Welcome to She Considers a Field podcast with coach, encourager, and fellow entrepreneur and homeschooling mama of four, Anna McLaughlin. As a homeschooling entrepreneur, you are uniquely positioned to impact the kingdom of God both deep through your investment in your children and wide through your business. And yet guilt, frustration, and overwhelm can hold you back from all that God has for you. Come with me on a journey to walk in deeper peace, purpose, and joy, because God has given you a legacy to build, and I'm here to help you enjoy the ride. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of She Considers a Field podcast. Now, I have some news for you. A little update on my little world as far as this podcast is concerned. But let me start with just a question for you. Have you ever found yourself waiting to start because you didn't have it all figured out yet? I know it's probably just me. No, I know I'm not alone. I know this is common to so many of us. We wait, we stutter. We're always just about to, but there's one more course we have to take, or one more book we have to read, or one more person we have to talk to before we feel like we've really got it. And we buffer, and we slow down, and we spin. There comes a point where we start to wonder, did I make this whole thing up? Is this actually the call? Because I don't feel like I have perfect clarity yet. Sound familiar? Well, that was actually me about a year ago. I had taken a podcast course. I'd started podcasting as a guest in early 2023. Gosh, that feels like a long time ago now, even though how are we even in the 2020s? I can't get over it. And during the course of me podcasting, being a guest, I started to find my voice and I started going, yeah, I think I would love to do this. I would love to have my own podcast. And I went through a couple of iterations. I actually went through a course and I built the whole thing. I had a cover, I had a title. It's never seen the light of day, but it was called The God Who Sees You Podcast, with a reference to Rahab, who was ministered to by the Lord, whom she didn't even know by name. But he was the God who saw her in her pain as she was navigating this deep, hard, can you even imagine how hard, with Sarah and Abraham, carrying Abraham's baby. But it wasn't the promised one. It was the child of the law. And so I built this podcast with an effort to invite people to the Father's feet. But there was something about it that I couldn't wrap my arms around. I felt like I didn't really know what I was trying to accomplish. I didn't really know who I was talking to. And I remember recording the first episode, and I remember telling my podcast coach, I kind of feel like I said everything I wanted to say. That can't be good. Like one episode, it was over. What else can I say other than this? And during the course of that winter, my podcast was going to launch in January of 2024. I connected with a brand marketing specialist. And he said this: you can say any what you want if you are crystal clear on your who. I almost couldn't make it through the rest of the conversation. We were actually talking about my website. He was going to help me with that, which he went on to do exactly that. But it was in that moment where I was like, homeschooling entrepreneurs, that's who I'm going to minister to. And that's what we've been doing. She Considers a Field has been an effort to minister to homeschooling entrepreneurs. And you know what? Specifically Christian homeschooling entrepreneurs. And if you are in that category, rest assured, I am still here for you. But I knew at the time that shorthand, which really is a mouthful, if you have ever tried to create a title for yourself that includes a coach for Christian homeschooling entrepreneur mamas, it never really worked. Never, ever really did. But I knew from the beginning, I really don't care if the woman I'm talking to is homeschooling. I really don't care if she's an entrepreneur. There's something about the Christian homeschooling entrepreneur that I think captures who I'm trying to talk to. But there are so many other people who would fit under that category as well. And it took about this 9-month period, what a perfect gestation time for me to feel like I had clarity. Okay, I think I have enough words to be able to wrap my mouth around who this is for. So we're changing things up a little bit. And it's going to be kind of a dicey dance for a little bit because I got way ahead. I'm very proud of this big girl that I'm becoming with this podcasting world. Got way ahead on my guest interviews. And so you're going to hear a couple more guest interviews specifically that are still under this She Considers a Field umbrella. We're going to make it. It'll be okay. The intro and the outro are going to change. That means the beginning part and the end part that are always the same. Those are going to change to this new title and this new description. But I thought I would give you guys a sneak peek here first. Okay, so by the time we hit mid-December, everything will be changed over. It'll be all consistent, but we're in this kind of iterative process right now because I'm just so excited to bring you this new thing. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you our new podcast. It is going to be entitled Overwhelmed to Overcomer. That may sound familiar. I have a guide by that title. It is really the work that I'm endeavoring to do in the world. If you are here because you're a homeschooling entrepreneur, you will find in this description of the show a safe place to land. But there are a lot of y'all, there are a lot of you that have been listening that don't fall into that category. And for you too, you're going to find, okay, now I knew I belonged here. I knew this was my conversation, but now it's actually being marketed as that. It's being presented as being for me. Because the woman I really wanted to talk to is a woman of faith who wants to do the thing well with Jesus. Oh, how you love him, friend. And I know you do. He has done so much for you. You are one who has been forgiven much, and you love much. And in the midst of the demands of the day-to-day, you feel a little lost sometimes. Lord, am I doing it? Am I being faithful? Are you pleased with me? Like, who am I really? What is this all about? I get to the end of the day, I see the dishes washed, I see the kids kissed, I see the husband, encouraged and supported. But did I do it? Like, am I walking this thing out well? In the years before becoming a wife and a mother, maybe you were the one that was curled up on a little easy chair in the sunshine, spending hours digging into the word, praising his name, encouraging others in the grocery store. You couldn't stop talking about his goodness. And maybe now you just feel like, where did she go? I wake up, I hit the ground running, and then I fall in bed at the end of the day and I wonder, did I do it? It's for you that we're here, okay? It's for you to know how valuable you are right now in the middle of the messy story. It's for you to know the deep purpose to which he has called you, and that he is working through you even when you feel like you're maybe not in motion the way that you hoped. Because we don't just serve wide to the many, we serve deep to the few that are in our home. And we do it in a unique way that sometimes we can't even recognize. Part of the journey is just to see how you're already operating in your unique God-given purpose. And then it's for you to feel this sense of purpose and minister from there. Own the thing. Walk it out. Be who he called you to be without apology. And as you do that, it's that continual indwelling, that receiving from the Father, that he is so pleased with you. And because of that, you must nestle close to his heart and receive from him. You must rest and fill your cup. You must walk in the things that give you joy, not from a place of should and ought to, but from a place of like, yes, this is a life of fullness. This is the life of stewardship. This is the life of courage. And as we receive, so we give again and again and again. Okay? So this is the walk from overwhelmed to overcomer again and again. And this is what I invite you to. Okay, so I've given you the title. Now I'm going to give you the description of the show. So this is what you're going to see. If you share this with a friend, this is what they will see. And it might change, but we're going with this right now. Do you feel overwhelmed by the demands of day-to-day life? Do you have big dreams rooted in a big God, but most days those dreams seem impossibly far out of reach? Do you find yourself comparing your journey to others or to where you thought you'd be by now and feeling inadequate? Welcome to Overwhelmed to Overcomer podcast, where we unpack and celebrate the unique purpose God has given you and how you can walk it out more fully with deeper joy today. This podcast is for Christian women who are striving to be faithful, yet feel weighed down by endless demands, pressures, and expectations. Join us each week for honest conversations and practical steps to help you live the life you love and love the life you live with clarity, with courage, with each other. So that's the work, friends. So that's what's shifting here. But I want to expand out a little bit because it's not just about this conversation. It's about our own walks. And here's what I've been reminded in this process of rebranding. I started to feel this restlessness where I was like, it's not really, yes, homeschooling entrepreneurs, how perfectly that category of people fits under this umbrella. The homeschooling entrepreneur is deeply engaged, typically. There's all types, I know. Deeply engaged in examining her life and endeavoring to be faithful. But so too are so many other women of faith. And I didn't want to leave you out. And so, but the challenge for me had been from the beginning, how do I capture her? And it was so challenging for me, even from the very beginning. I remember telling friends, okay, homeschooling entrepreneurs, that's who I'm going to serve. And then they were like, oh, like, that's not me. I mean, I'm excited for you, but that's not me. And I was like, yeah, but it's not really just for homeschooling entrepreneurs. It's really anybody who resonates. And then I try to explain. And then from the beginning of the show, we started off early on with this conversation of like homeschooling with the end in mind and growing your business and how to monetize and all that. So we did some kind of practical, tactical stuff. But where I found myself again and again was in this conversation of purpose and stewardship and self-care, nurture. How do we nourish our souls? And I'm like, gosh, this applies to so many people that have nothing to do with this homeschooling entrepreneurship world. How do I capture it? But here's the thing, and this is where we're going to broaden out a little bit for the remainder of this relatively short conversation. The only way out is through, okay? The only way that we can truly know what our work actually is by moving our feet first. Oh man, how we want to begin with the end already locked in. Here's where I'm going. All I've got to do is break it down into the fundamental steps and boom, I've got it. I've got the business I want, got the marriage I want, got the family life I want, locked and loaded, no problem. What do we need God for if we're doing it that way? He will not walk it out that way, friend. We have got to move our feet with no idea of the bends and curves in the road ahead. We have to be willing to take the step, okay? We have to be willing to plant our sweet feet, and then the provision arrives, okay? We need to call our shot in the heavenlies. I think about, there's this beautiful passage in, what is it? Is it Joshua, I think? Where the Lord is bringing his people into the promised land. And he calls them, he says, I'm like, shoot, I haven't looked it up, but I think I've got it close enough. Okay. He calls the priests to lead the people. And he tells them to put their feet in the Jordan River. It is not until they do, it is not until those bold, courageous priests put their feet in the Jordan River that the waters stop and begin to pile up. And then as the waters pile up, all of a sudden the way is made abundantly clear. And if I remember correctly, he then calls them to grab a stone, one for each tribe, to be taken out of the river and placed as an Ebenezer, as a monument testifying to God's goodness to bring them through. Now he could have led them any old way. He could have said, come through the river, and then maybe somehow they're like lifted above the water and they're walking on top of the water. He could have just made it so that they could all swim, and all the livestock swims and all the kids swim, or the kids get carried on people's back. The Jordan River can be very shallow, but it can also be at flood stage. And so that's my understanding anyway, is that it can be very deep and difficult to ford. He could have brought them across when it was shallow. It's not our business how he brings us through. Our job is to start walking and let him provide as he will. I'm reminded of another story. This just came to mind. A friend of mine many, many years ago, she was brought in for a medical procedure. And when she submitted for insurance, the insurance company cut a check. The bill was fully paid. Years later, she was brought in for a similar procedure, actually the exact same procedure, if I remember the story correctly. Insurance would not pay. Same insurance company, same billing process, same exact issue. The insurance company would not pay, fought her tooth and nail. During that time, something else came up. I think she ended up getting a raise or something like that. And the exact amount she needed to cover that procedure all of a sudden found its way into her bank account. But she was still looking at that insurance claim and saying, they paid it last time. And the Lord spoke to her and said, it is my business how I provide for you. Your work is to trust that I will. She had to let go of that injustice of, you paid it once before, you should pay it again. And instead recognize the provision came. That's all that matters. It is his business how he provides. She only needs to trust that he will. We only need to trust that he will. So friends, sometimes we're called to wait. We're called to wait on the Father's clear instructions. I remember a season where he said to me very plainly, it was like, I was the donkey in this story. He said, wait until the lead rope goes taut. Do not walk until you feel the tension come. And then you take a step forward. Just like that picture of the donkey or the elephant, right? There's a lead rope. Wait until it goes taut. Wait until you are clear on the direction, and then you move forward. There are other times where it's time to walk. What's the difference? When we know what the directive is, at least generally. Man, how badly do we want to know the next step? We just want him to tell us every single thing. And then this is going to happen. And then this is going to happen. But the call so often is, like he says, he's a lamp unto our feet. We just need to know enough to take the first step. And then from there, it is actually his business to provide. There's a part of me, friend, where when I felt clarity that I needed to walk away from this homeschooling entrepreneur niche, this like super dialed in, very clear, this person only, that I felt like, I failed. Like, what a waste. Here, I've been doing this thing and I like bought the domain name for She Considers a Field. Do I keep that? Like, now I'm getting rid of this title. What does that mean? And I felt so disappointed. But then the Lord said, none of this is wasted. None of this is wasted. I had to walk through this so that I could have enough reps, right? We have to get out there and move so we know what works and what doesn't. I love finance. I love business. I love homeschool. I was like, this is great. I could talk about this stuff forever. And then I kept coming back to the same dang message over and over. What's your purpose? Let's know that you belong to the Father. Let's know that you belong with other people. You belong with yourself. Let's know that you're about something really special in the kingdom that's just for you. Like, you've got God's unique fingerprints on your soul to do a thing. That's why you're here. And that thing starts when the kids are little. And that thing starts when the baby's crying all the time. And that thing starts when marriage is hard and you don't think that you have anything to offer anybody. And you feel like you're lost and you feel like you're broken and you feel like you're downtrodden. It starts now. Couldn't get away from the message. What do you know? It's my message. It's the thing I've been saying for decades. It's the thing that the Lord needed to work in my own life first. Hello. Who needs to hear that? What you're going through now does not disqualify you for ministry. It is your ministry. It starts in your soul first. He has to do it to you so he can do it through you. Okay? You become the walking testimony of faithfulness in the Lord in this area. Okay? You become the proof text. He did it for me. He will do it for you. Y'all have heard the interviews with Logan Hufford over the past couple of weeks during the months September and November. Why is his conversation so powerful? Because the Lord did it in his life first. So he can look out at all the broken men and the broken marriages and say, I know my Redeemer lives and I know he can deliver you from this. Yes, you're going to have to get serious. Yes, you're going to have to do some hard things, but I know he can do it because I'm living proof. And I say the same thing to you, friend. There's something that you've walked through or are in the middle of now. Do not waste your pain. Don't indignify your pain by going, okay, this is just something to be gotten through and gotten over. No. Carry every single gift with you. Don't let it go. Squeeze every single piece of meaning out of your pain that you possibly can by making it your platform for ministry. When my dad was paralyzed by the chemotherapy that saved his life, someone came to him very early on, and she said, your wheelchair will be your pulpit. And he lived that. He carried it with him, and he decided he would not waste his pain. He would wring out every bit of significance that he could and submit it to the Father. And you know what? As his daughter, I decided I wouldn't waste his pain either. His legacy did not die with him. I'm carrying it forward. We talk about stewarding health for a reason. We talk about not wasting your suffering for a reason. It's because of my dad. You have something in you, an inheritance from others, and your own sweet story that matters. Don't waste it. Live it now. It is so precious and significant to the Father that he sent his Son to die for that, for your story, so that you could walk out that redemption life and that you could share it with others. Okay? So, that's what we'll be talking about in here. It's what we've been talking about. But now, as you listen, you'll know this is for you. Okay? This is not just for homeschooling entrepreneurs. If you're listening to this and something's waking up in you, it's yours. Take it. Okay? Come be a part of this conversation that we're going to be facilitating, however imperfectly. And then take a page from this book that I'm walking out, however imperfectly right now, and move your sweet feet in the direction that the Lord is leading you. I would hazard a guess that you know enough to take some action today. And it's action that you've been waiting on because you're like, I don't have full clarity. I don't exactly know what I'm doing yet. I don't have enough information. Take the next step. Launch the podcast with the wrong title. Give it to the people that maybe aren't exactly the people you mean to give it to, but you know enough to begin. And then you know what's going to happen? God's going to honor the effort. And he's going to teach and train and hone you through the action. Okay? What did the parable of the talents teach us? We've got to move our feet. The master was gone for a really long time. He's not pulling those marionette strings saying, do this, now do this, now do this. He's giving us room to co-create with him, which means we have to actually go out and do what the faithful servants did. Invest what he has given. And how do we invest in the kingdom of God? By sowing into people. Souls are the currency of the kingdom, friends. These are the eternal things. Love God. Love others. That's our work. How do we love? In our own unique way, right? So, hopefully this gives you a little bit of a taste of where we're going. Hopefully it sounds very familiar to where we've been with a little bit more clarity. because my feet have been in motion these past 9 months. And hopefully, more important than anything, you feel a little stirring inside of you to take your next step. Call your shot. Do the thing. And let it be okay that you don't actually know exactly where you're going. That's his business, not yours. Okay? Thanks so much for being here, for being a part of this. And let me just ask you a favor, okay? I spent a lot of time letting people know that I'm here for homeschooling entrepreneurs. And there were a lot of people that were like, okay, not me. Love what you're doing. Blessings on your way. It doesn't apply to me. So now I'm in this process of shifting and saying, hey, it actually might be. It might be exactly for you. So if you're listening to this podcast right now, would you do me a favor and think of one person that might resonate with this message? Share this with them. Or take a second, share the link to this podcast on your social media and say, hey, check this out. Women of faith who want to do a thing, who want to know their purpose and their gifts, who feel called to really walk in who they are in Christ. Give it to their families, give it to their children, and give it to those beyond. Share this with them. Would you? Okay. Now, that's all for today. Until next time, you've got this, because he's got you.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of She Considers a Field. If you found value in this episode, I would be so grateful if you would leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts, and be sure to share with a friend who needs some encouragement on her journey today too. Until next time, remember, you've got this because he's got you.